This video has been brought to you by Break Connect. Go to the website and register. Check out what they have to offer at breakconnect.com. Yo, what's up? This is Shadow Rock and ProfoWon of the Floor Gangs and the Knuckleneck Tribe, and you're watching The Trades, the show about breaking, hip hop, and the business of. How is everyone doing? It's been a while since I've been live. I don't even remember the last time I was on live. It's been too crazy. Just to catch everyone up, I think the last show we had was with Emmanuel Fox from Greece, who is he does the Vault, and we basically had him on, and he does research on movement because a lot of people are like, "Oh, I'm more original than this guy, and I made this thing up," and he was actually pulling up like a guy doing the windmill or almost the windmill, and it wasn't even a kung fu movie doing the fan. It was actually a French comedian acrobat in 1944, and he pulled up footage of that, and that kind of like he showed that movement, as Bruce Lee said, unless we grow another leg or another arm, that's the only truly where it's gonna styles are gonna change. And so that was a really dope show. You could check that out here in the ProfoWon channel. And at the same time, what has happened was the Floor Gangs anniversary that happened about a week and a half ago. And I purposely didn't go on, the Monday. Usually I do the trades either Monday or Tuesday, following the weekend. And I was just too overload, as far as like running the show and hosting and, doing like basically going through the footwork, going through the 3-on-3s. And I just needed to decompress. I needed a whole week to decompress. And I'm still actually like very much so like still like, like processing everything. So, it's been a while, but, we're back. And, today we have a great show. And we're going to get into it before that. Before that, I want to clean house, right? So first of all, I want to say 89% of you are not subscribed. You've helped me get to 1,500 subscribers. Thank you very much. I still need about 3,000 hours or 2,500 hours of sit time for you guys to like help me monetize. So basically, the best thing you could do for me is, since you're watching and subscribing is for free, click the subscribe button, click the like for the algorithm, and click the bell for notifications. Because if you want this channel to grow, which it is, it'll be very helpful if you basically did that. Another thing I want to do is give a shout out to Zenworld CBD. Now, if you don't know what CBD is, it is from the cannabis plant, but we're not getting the psychoactive things from this cannabis. That's THC. What we're using is the healing properties of CBD. Now, CBD helps with anxiety, but it also helps the bringing down inflammation. That's the thing that gets your joints stuck. That's the thing that causes actually a lot of like your sickness, is the inflammation of whatever is going on. So CBD helps calm that down. So what you can do is you could try out Zenworld CBD Nano Drops. You could put this in your sports drink, in your coffee, in your water, and basically it will help that way if you're ingesting it. But if you don't want to ingest it, if you don't want to drink it, there is the CBD roll-on. The Zenworld CBD Freeze works just like an icy hot, but the active ingredient, right? The icy hot likes to massage you, right? But this will bring down the inflammation. Now, icy hot doesn't bring down inflammation. It just gives you the massage, right? But this will massage you and bring down the inflammation. And the great thing is, if you go to zenworld.com and use the promo code PROFOWON, you get 10% off. Why not save some money while you rest and rehabilitate and regenerate? All right. Okay. So when I introduce this guest, basically I've been knowing him for a long time. He's been around the breaking scene, actually. For a lot of you guys that are discovering him, you've seen him a lot lately. He was on the Knowledge Drop podcast with Focus. you might have seen him do interviews with B-Boy Wicked, B-Boy Why Not, with Rascal Randy. The thing is, he's actually been around behind the scenes for a long time. But within the last 2 years, year and a half, you've seen his face more and more. He's even been on the Gearheads podcast with myself and Jay Soul doing commentary for the Breaking for Gold USA finals last year. So a lot of things has happened. He was he was coaching the Breaking for Gold, but this time he's doing something more specific, and I feel like more impactful. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted him on the show, because to explain to like this kind of shift that's happening in the world of the breaking industry. I don't want to just say breaking, just not just the breaking world, but the breaking industry, because there has been an industry, for the past, let's say about 25 years, there has been a breaking industry, but now it's even more important and getting bigger as the 2024 Olympics is happening. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to my guest, Carl Paoli. What's up, Carl? How you doing?
How's it going, man? It's a pleasure to be here. And as I was listening to you, I was like, oh shit, here we go. Who is Carl? What's happening?
Well, I mean, that's the
Yeah.
thing. That's the whole reason. Because again, you were behind the scenes. I think the first time I met you was a mutual friend, Milestone. I saw him. Used to take his classes at City Dance. You used to take breaking classes, and that's the first time I saw you. So, and I know with if you watch the knowledge drop with Focus, you explained like you actually were working with Renegades when it came to the R16. Yeah.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I remember I started, so I remember taking a class slash doing a session with Wicked. Wicked was like, let me just show you what breaking is. And my first experience with him was, okay, let's just get on the floor. And I said, okay, let's start from the floor. And he said, I'm just going to teach you some footwork. So we're just going to start in a basic stance, and I'm just going to guide you through the steps. And I'm just going to see if you can at least follow my lead. So I just kind of follow his lead, and I learned, the 6-step, 3-step, 2-step. And we just kind of went from there, and it was very basic. And then he's like, okay, you feel pretty comfortable here. Let me show you some basic top rock. So we do a little top rock. And of course I'm awkward as hell because I'm just not naturally like somebody who just dances. So I feel very uncomfortable. And in this moment, I'm like, man, this is very much out of my comfort zone. I'm not a dancer. I'm a robotic gymnast. That's as close as I get to artistry.
Yeah.
And he said, okay, let's forget about everything right now, and let's just listen to the music. And I had never been one to really appreciate music or even understand music. But this was the first time that I was able to connect music and movement. And one of the things that Wicket shared with me was this idea of music having different layers, different instruments, different layers. And he said, just focus on the one that is capturing your attention right now. And I can't remember what it was at that moment, but he's like, let's see if we can use that instrument or the thing that's capturing your attention to bring you to the bass beat. And then we're going to start from there. And then that's going to be your backbeat. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm just going to trust. And, he had me do different things like closing my eyes and just kind of listening, bobbing my head, allowing my shoulders to go, then my hips, then my knees, and just kind of like allowing myself to just groove to this thing. And he's like, okay, so as you're in this flow now, let's just start to add these steps. And it was very simple stuff. So it was just like a little bit of top rock, a little get down into a little, bit of footwork, super simple, and then into a freeze. And the freeze could be as simple as just doing a hook and just holding it there.
Right.
And that was like the session. So I was like, oh, whatever. This is, breaking for the first time taught to me in a way that felt like it had a method.
Right.
And, I leave, and this was at Acro Sports in San Francisco, which you've been at many times. I leave and I get in my car, and this is not something I usually do, but I turned on the radio, And all of a sudden, the music that was coming out of the radio, which was just like some pop thing, sounded completely different. I felt like I was hearing it in like
Ah,
3D.
okay. It was like internalized in your body this time versus just like
Yeah.
kind of like cerebral. Like, oh, this
Hmm.
is a great song. And maybe because probably even subconsciously, probably you reacted to the song probably naturally, subconsciously, but this time it was like a conscious, hey, what's my body doing? Like
Hmm.
kind of like, you know what I mean? It's moving by itself almost, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And it was just, it just felt special. And truth be told, I didn't think much of it. I just felt like, oh wow, I really appreciate breaking more than I used to. I just thought breaking was power moves. And I
Right.
remember Iron Monkey used to be training at Acro Sports all the time. We would hang out. We became friends. And I was like, in my head, breaking was air flares and head spins.
Right,
Um,
right, right. Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't I just thought the music was there as like decoration. Okay, this is just my naive, like,
Right, right, right,
I
right.
don't know anything. I don't
Yeah.
understand where it's going, but feeling some kind of connection to it. And fast forward to a few years later, that's when Wicket was like, "Hey, R16 is happening, and right now, they've asked the Renegade Rockers to represent the U.S. at the event. Is there any chance you could help us in preparation for this?" Wicket just had this sense that through some physical training and maybe mental training, I could be of service. So I started coaching them, and at the time, let's see if I can remember who it was. It was Ed Johnson.
B-Boy
It was,
Black.
yeah, B-Boy Black, Bobby Vicario,
Mm-hmm. B-Boy
Finesse,
Finesse.
B-Boy Finesse. It was our monkey, so Sean Hellman.
Yeah.
It was B-Boy Wicket. It was although Kid David wasn't there, he was in LA, but he was also on the crew that was going. Rock's Right, and Rock's Right was also battling in the one-on-one.
Right.
Anyways, I go to R16 and I arrive there. What year was this? Yeah.
2009.
Oh my goodness. Look at this was the crew.
2009. And this
Yeah.
is what's great about this podcast. I'm like
Well, yeah,
Jamie.
and
I'm
I'm
just whoa, whoa,
forgetting
whoa.
Milestone was
Milestone.
there, and Natron.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and by the way, if it hadn't been, a big shout out to Natron, I was so nervous going on this trip because this is like a crew of just like, for me, this little, suburban boy who was like trying to be part of this like street culture. I was like, this is straight up gangster. I don't know. Dude, I was so scared and so intimidated. But Natron, I mean, Wicked, of course, because he's the one that brought me out there. But Natron, Renee, was just so welcoming and curious about me and about, what I had to share and offer. And if it hadn't been for him, I wouldn't have had the experience that I had. And I don't think I've ever shared that with him. Anyways, fast forward, we come back from R16. Here's Miles, by the way.
Yeah.
Dude, he's so
He actually
classic.
showed up to the event. He
Which
showed my event.
he did?
Yeah, he was there.
Amazing.
Yeah, he was there.
He's doing great work right now in
Oh,
LA
yeah.
with his apparel.
Yeah.
Killing it.
Yeah, man.
Amazing dude. Anyways, we got back from R16. I felt connected to Miles. Miles was like open to talking to me and sharing more. And I just remember me going up to Miles and being like, "Hey, where do I start?" And he's like, "The magic numbers are 1 and 5." I was like, "Okay." He's like, you freeze on 5 and you show me a transition. No, you freeze on 1 and you show me a transition on 5. I was like, I have no clue what you're talking about. But he was just kind of like giving me something to work with.
Right.
And then he's like, in order for you to fully understand it, you just need to start taking classes. So he actually started teaching me private lessons. And I started bringing in a friend, Nate Helming from the gym where we're working at. And that's what led me to take the classes. And that's when I met you at City Dance.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing you and I'm like, I'm not ready for that. That just was for me. When I saw your class, I'm like, Ron seems scary. Profo's scary.
Hey, that's good. Just kidding. But anyway, no, cool.
Yeah,
that's
but
great.
Danny Dibble was there actually. And
Yeah.
at the time, I think he was like 16 or 17, maybe young
Maybe
dude.
18, maybe 18,
And this is something
maybe 18.
okay, this is something I haven't shared, but I mention him in the book.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
And it's
shoot.
yeah. And it's because he said, Carl, what you're seeing right now, like that, what you're seeing right now looks very simple, but it's the byproduct of an infinite number of iterations on self-expression that just happened to turn into this. And clearly he was regurgitating something he had probably heard from you or other teachers and people in the
There
space.
you
But
go.
the way that he said it to me, I was like, yeah, that landed. That made
Right,
sense.
right.
And that's when I realized that this idea of freestyle, which I had been leaning into since probably 97, 98 in
Okay.
gymnastics. Yeah. Influenced by the world of action sports, started to make sense at an elemental or fundamental level. Meaning, when it came to the basics of human movement and performance, that breaking had the principles and values for creating the most versatile, the most transferable movement patterns out there. And they were influenced and informed by this language that we all speak. Some of us don't know how to speak it fluently, but we all understand, which is the language of music. And that it comes from a place of needing to express something that maybe at the time couldn't be articulated in words, but yes, could be done in the form of a dance. And it just happened to be breaking. And this is where my ignorance, of course, is going to show. It's like, I don't know enough about the history to be able to talk about it in a way where I can say, yes, this is breaking and this is the art. I have
Right.
no clue. But from an outside perspective, what I do know is that which we see as the art of breaking, whether it's through competition or simply watching people dance for the sake of dancing and practicing in the style of breaking, it's cool. Okay. And when I say cool, I don't just mean that it looks good, but it showcases that there is more than just dancing to it. There is a deliberate, careful approach to creating something through your body in the context of breaking that shows that you are a person that understands the importance of practice. And
Yeah.
practice being the choice of developing something. And to do it with some autonomy, meaning that you're doing it because you are choosing to do it, whether you're just attracted to it or you're doing it because of whatever reason you have come up with in your head. And not only do it individually, but having the support. And this is what I didn't fully understand either, but now I'm like really starting to get it, is having the support of a family, and this family being the crew. And the reason this has become something that I've really kind of started to lean into is because when I first started getting involved with Breaking for Gold USA and seeing that breaking boards go into the Olympics and there was this team being developed, I alluded to the importance, and this was just me, you know, I'm almost ashamed or embarrassed that I said this, but I'm like, this needs to become Crew USA. And immediately everyone was like, we can't be crew. We can only
Yeah.
be, you know, crew
Team.
is something else. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh shit. Crew carries more weight than I thought.
We're
And I did,
okay. So
yeah,
let's put a thumbtack on that because I'm
yeah,
going to get
please.
to that a little bit later. But let's just cycle back a little bit. So for those who don't know, you actually started out as a gymnast, right?
Mm-hmm.
You started out as a gymnast, and then eventually you got into the CrossFit world. So let's talk about that just a brief moment, and then we'll get back to breaking. So how did you go from CrossFit already existed at this point, right? Like,
Yeah, CrossFit had been around for a while. CrossFit was originally a gym in Santa Cruz that started by this gentleman named Greg Glassman, who happened to create a website that was a blog, and this blog had these workouts every day, and they called it the workout of the day. That's why it was WOD, WOD,
Right.
workout of the day. And the magic of these workouts were twofold. One was that they were super simple, clean, and two, that there was a call to action at the bottom of the workouts that said, post your results in the comments. So people would see these workouts on this blog, thus they were searchable. People would find CrossFit.com, do the workout, and then post their score, their measurable score, in the comments. And because everybody was posting their scores, they started realizing how either fit or unfit they were. Basically, there was competition happening.
Right.
And this was almost like the origin of competitive fitness. And not almost, it was the origin of competitive fitness. Yeah. So that's what CrossFit was. And I found it because somebody saw me when I was doing personal training. They saw me at the gym. I was doing gymnastics, so a lot of handstand walking, handstand push-ups, combined with Olympic weightlifting, kettlebells. And they're like, oh, you seem to be doing CrossFit, which is the combination of gymnastics, weightlifting, and endurance sports. And I was like, well, I'm not. I don't even know what CrossFit is. And they're like, oh, well, check it out. They showed me some video or whatever. And yeah, I started taking classes at San Francisco CrossFit, and that's how I got into CrossFit. And at first, I like the video that we're seeing right now. This is me teaching a muscle up, which is you getting yourself over a bar. At first, I would see these movements. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, this seems dumb. It just, from a fitness perspective, it just didn't make sense. But then I got into it and I started to realize, wait a second, this is the same thing I experienced when I left gymnastics, so competitive artistic gymnastics, and I got into the world of action sports. And I realized that performing a backflip, for example, on a snowboard, which is called like a rodeo, doesn't have to be executed in the same way that a gymnast does it for it to be done properly. Thus, movement doesn't have a book.
I see where you're going now.
Right? Movement is a spectrum of expression, and your access to a fuller spectrum gives you a stronger base. And the way to understand this base, this spectrum, is through the lens of freestyle, which is one's ability to move or perform in an infinite number of styles. And although I know that infinity is not possible in the physical form, but that you can have multiple approaches to expressing yourself, and then that you can shift gears, translate it into performing in the desired way. Furthermore, and this is the key, furthermore, to get to a point that is desired, and there to allow yourself to open yourself up to creativity or to the moment, to a state of flow, and thus creating new movement patterns that are influenced by the foundation, yet creating new styles. And those styles becoming signature movements for each people or different modalities. Thus, CrossFit, when I saw it, I was like, this is a freestyle strength and conditioning program. That's what it is. That happens to have these unique expressions, these signature movements that are the building blocks of the methodology that allow it to be transferred. And this is what I saw in breaking. This is what I've seen in gymnastics.
And I was actually about to say, so it's almost like you're back in the time loop. You're going back to the same position you were when you first started with CrossFit. That's interesting to me. That's very interesting to me. But that's dope that you said it, because like, for those I know Carl could be very, complex. So let me simplify it a little bit, translate a little bit. If you're an artist, he's just saying, how do you have the best? You're going to have the best brush in the world to get you ready to create whatever art you want to create. In layman's terms.
Totally. And I apologize ahead of time. And I'm not for everybody. That's the thing. I'm not
That's
for everybody.
Fine. No. That's we're here for intelligent conversation at the same time. You know what I mean? And this is why I feel like the next subject that we're going to talk about, because like I said, I'm assuming the audience has seen you on b-boy the knowledge drop with focus. Yeah, I'm assuming that. I'm assuming that people have seen you on Gearheads. I'm assuming that they are following you on Instagram, or at least seen you just a little bit, like from like maybe myself reposting you, or Wicked reposting you, or Randy
Mhm.
reposting you, or Gravity reposting you. And this is just to kind of like get a taste of like how you think and what, like, you speak a certain language
Mhm.
that helps kind of like, for our sake, yo kid, this is dope. Like you're able to communicate that in
Dude,
a
that is
way,
so good. That is so
in
good.
a way that people are like, oh, okay, it's very, because the thing is, you could tell, and this is the thing I want everyone to see, is your passion for learning this art form, that we call breaking. You
Mhm.
obviously are passionate about it, like, and I see it, and I've been knowing, like, but like
Mhm.
even within the years, and here's some backstory with me and Carl. Like, okay, so he saw me at City Dance, and he saw, with Miles in his class, but then eventually somehow he started going to Starbucks where my boy Glide works at, and then he was like, wait, you know Carl? I was like, wait, you know Carl? And then we just started, because you're in the neighborhood, we
Mhm.
just started to bump into each other and just have these long discussions. And what's exciting for me is that you're into breaking,
Mhm.
but right now, like, you have this fire and passion about it. That's what's
Yeah.
interesting to me. And the thing is, you talk like one of us, yet you're not a practitioner. To
Mm-mm.
me, that's exciting.
That's
To
cool.
me, that's exciting, because if you can be passionate about it, who's not a practitioner, you're involved, right? You're like, you have
Mhm.
firsthand experience with b-boys and b-girls right now. Yet, you're starting to understand the language. Like you said, you talked about crew. Oh,
Mhm.
because you understand the dynamic of, in corporate America, they call it building a culture,
Mhm.
right? That's what you're talking about, building a culture. It's like, that's the thing that we need in Breaking for Gold. Yet, and for a lot of the athletes that are in Breaking, athlete artists are Breaking for Gold, it's like, we already have a culture. Just give me the paycheck. And
Mm.
so it's like almost like, and so that's why I want to talk to you about,
Yeah.
because that's the thing that I'm actually pushing.
Mhm.
It's funny. I'm a kind of counter you. I'm kind of like, I can't wait till the corporations get in here,
Mhm. Well,
because
it's happening.
yeah, my point is, because I feel like the culture, and this is my own pet peeve, and
Mhm.
I feel the culture of crews is built on corporate and team aesthetics.
Mm.
Because of the competition culture, they created that culture that didn't exist prior to 1995, because
Interesting.
it didn't
I
exist.
think there's a parallel there for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know if I fully agree, but I do think there's a parallel there that is definitely worth exploring.
That's and
Uh,
that's why I'm bringing it up, because
mhm.
this is what I see. Because prior to '95 in America, and I know you're kind of aware of this. There used to be
I think I
there
know where
never
you're
used to
going.
be there never used to be a one man army. There was no such thing as
Mm.
a one man army. There was the headspin guy, or the
Mhm.
little kid, or the popper, or the so it was always a group effort. Everyone pulled their weight.
Mhm.
But as the competition scene started to happen, like, being a one man army was very rare. It was very rare, right? But as the competition scene started to happen, and I think this happened more towards 1997, 98, 99, there was like the ultimate one man army guy was Storm. And that was like,
Mm.
I was like 1991 in Germany, in Europe. But
Was
you start,
Storm was the first name that I got to hear as like a superstar within the scene, and this was
yeah,
probably in 1995, maybe.
right, yeah. Because you were in Europe at the time, so
Yeah,
you're kind of hearing this name, because
everybody
he was,
was
yeah,
watching the tapes.
yep, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, okay, I'm gonna bring up Storm, but yeah, so he was like the first one man army guy. Like, you really
Mhm.
saw it. Like, you still, like, there was kind of like guys that touched it, like Lil Caesar kind of touched it,
Mm.
but he was the first to actually get the closest to the most well rounded b boy. But
Interesting.
then you start to see that more and more. as there became solo competitions, as there became, okay, you're highlighted, as you became, there became this one man army more, until now you could say everyone is a one man army. Almost, there's no specialists no more. It's either you're a one man army, and this is what brings up super crews, because it's really about how many one man armies you can have in one group that's not, you're not from that crew. Thus being like, well, Red Bull said, well, we'll have the all stars and we'll all pay you. It's like boom, and that changed everything.
Yeah, I see what I see how you built that up. That makes sense to me. Yeah, and I think that's definitely the thing that's allowing bigger companies to be like, yeah, this now has enough leverage and value that we can create a positive conversion. The problem we're seeing
all right, let's go for it.
The problem we're seeing is that there's a heavy amount of protection over the craft, which I understand. Like,
yes.
If you've been done wrong once, you're going to come in pretty wary. And even if it's a few generations later, you're receiving information that has been like sent down, but there has been no guidance on how to navigate it when that problem arises again.
That's the biggest thing why I think it's so important. And here's B-Boy Storm, who's considered at the time the most well-rounded B-Boy. Which
by the way, that's the first time I was like starstruck in breaking without even having seen this person's face when I went to R16 and he was sitting next to me on the bus. I didn't say anything. I just sat there like, cool.
Because it's like, this is like what, 15 years later, and you're like, wait, this is the guy I used to, like, everyone around my neighborhood used to watch and love, like.
Exactly. It's a wild thing. And I was all about this like action sports, fringe sports scene. So I just knew the power of the counterculture and the underground world. And then you didn't really see faces, you only saw moves.
Right. Yeah.
And you didn't hear voices. It's not like they were talking to you. No, they were just, just saw moves. So it was always the name and the move.
Right.
That's all you saw. So to see somebody in person was kind of like, whoa, this is like, I'm meeting Jesus right now.
Yeah. So I mean, we're flowing right now. What were we talking about a little bit before I brought the Storm clip?
Well, I just said that people aren't fully equipped to handle what is coming in terms of.
Okay. Yeah. So we came from the cruise, and like this kind of goes in with it because you said it got passed down, and you're right. You're very right. This trauma that we had from the 80s. It's funny because now it's passed down to people that are 30 that was born in 1991, right? Which is funny because that's already crazy. 8 years removed that they never experienced it.
Yeah.
I just think for me, and this is just me being, very just like, old man about it, right? Like shake my fist. Like, what are you talking about? You weren't there. I do get it because, and that's why for me, this show is about, let's follow the breadcrumbs, why you believe what you believe, and now you can let it go. So that way we can move into this future.
Yeah.
So I was just on Instagram, promoting this show. I said, what everyone fears is that, something like the Olympics, or that has happened already with Red Bull BC1, is that your fear of it is that it's more popular than you are. You think your style and your traditions are going to die because one thing is more popular than what you're doing. Because that's what really competition is a distribution. I said this earlier, is that a distribution of your ideas and your thoughts, right? That you so happen to fulfill these criteria of 5 people doing this or 5 people doing this now.
Right.
That's what it really is. Because to me, I still think we're the closest to musical artists than we are to actual, even though what we do is athletic, our true essence, because if you look at the popularity of breaking when it first came out in the 80s, Rocksteady or New York City Breakers never won any competitions. They were just in movies. That's it. They were in movies.
Wow. Makes sense.
That's it. They did. I mean, they battled in a what, in the Beach Street they battled in a club, but they didn't say this is the winner. It just ended, and everyone's cheering. But then everyone's like, they were rock stars. They got, like Rocksteady. They made records. New York City Breakers toured the world, and that's it. They weren't known for competition. They were just known for being talented.
And, so capturing people's attention.
Yeah, that's it. And stylistically, that's why the complaint is like, for me, the complaint is like, we've been indoctrinated by this competition that, again, in America is 1995. That became the standard, and then that's like here. And the cultural stuff that people talk about culture weren't even around what's even being valued, because here. So I do like the corporatization of breaking. I actually do love it, because it's like you can't force these cultural things that you haven't experienced if you're 30 or 25. You have not experienced that, because a lot of these guys were born in 1995.
Yeah.
A lot of the competitors right now are born in 1995. So whatever you heard from us, because we had trauma, because I was there, it's not valid now. Because the guys that are in charge, let's say a ProfoWon, let's say a John Jay, we're all in our 40s and we've experienced it. We've created this thing that then all of a sudden we become the enemy. It's like, no, we're not. ProfoWon is not the enemy. John Jay is not the enemy. Because these are people that are able to go, I've lived it, and whatever corporation goes, we trust you to do whatever you want to do. So it's actually very pure in a lot of ways. It's actually very pure, because the guys that are in charge in Hollywood had nothing to do with anything. They might have managed, like, I don't know, Led Zeppelin, like, now I have a breaking group. It's not like that no more. Most of the people that are behind the scenes are from the breaking culture prior to competition.
Yeah, that's why it's fascinating.
There's no one I know that's behind the scenes, right? That's part of Breaking for Gold. That's part of, like, except for like maybe WDSF, because they are separate. But from those who are left in charge of it are from breaking. There's no one that's not from breaking. I think that's, but the problem is, I think the thing that we're running into is that they're still carrying that trauma that doesn't even apply to them anymore.
Yeah.
I think that's what you're talking about.
I think that is. At the same time, it's kind of like this idea of the only constant is change. And if this is change, how do you want to partake in the change?
Yes.
You can position yourself in any way that you see to be of service.
Yes.
And if that is, hey, let's become historians and not forget where this came from.
Yes.
Position yourself that way. That's super valuable. In fact, now that I'm talking to some big brands, although they claim to care, although they claim to care, they don't have another option but to listen to some of this, because it's the only way they can position themselves as a valuable asset to you.
Yes.
So you better become really clear on what your position is, and I want to be very careful not to be preaching here, because what do I know? But
hey, go for it.
my sense is, okay, this is just my sense. My sense is that if you can position yourself in a way where you're true to your values, your principles, to that which got you to this point, and you have somewhat of a premonition of where this is going, and you believe that something needs to be said or done, position yourself that way, and do it in a way where it goes two ways. It becomes a two-way stream. And it's something that you can be plugged into. So a brand can plug into you and say, hey, I want to connect to you and elevate myself through your knowledge. Or you can plug into them and they can elevate you there in a way that matches that which you're trying to share. And this is something that unfortunately at the corporate level can be seen as like an influencer program, which is behind doors, looked down on.
Right.
But here's the truth. The thing that got you to winning the competitions, to getting breaking to this point, was because you were an influencer.
Exactly. That's just a word that everyone's using now.
It's just
But
terminology.
yeah,
But
but the truth
influence
that
is okay. So sorry for kind of cutting in here, but
no.
I want to change the conversation. I have this book behind me. You can't really see it in focus, but it says leadership without easy answers. I want to change the narrative from being an influencer to becoming a leader. And
I mean,
to encourage people to take on a leadership position, which in the early stages of anybody's development, the best leadership you can do is to follow the program. That's taking lead. It's like, I'm going to do the things. I'm going to show up at practice. I'm going to learn what this dance really is. I'm going to learn the steps, the foundation, whatever you want to call it. And then I'm going to allow that foundation to influence my style.
Right.
I'm going to allow that to be the building blocks of my style. By being influenced, you are actually becoming a leader. A friend of mine, Logan Gelbrich, always says, be ready to lead, ready to follow.
Right. There you go. I mean, honestly, that is very simple. But here's one thing I like about you too, Carl, is like you try to bring, just as when you first took classes from Wicked, there was this subconscious thing of you probably didn't even realize you reacted to music.
Yeah.
But through Wicked's class, you became aware that you reacted to music. And what I like about you, Carl, is you're about, let's be aware of all the mechanics that we have so that we can adjust it, micro calibrate whatever we do. That way we can move forward or backward, whatever you like. And that's what I like about you, just your process.
Thank
you.
That's
what I like about your process. And the thing is, that's what we need in breaking, because you're saying the things like, most people, when you say, like, let's say influencer, that's a trigger word. I'm not a kid on TikTok that's 12. I'm not an influencer. It's like, no, we're not talking about that. We're not talking about that. We're talking about, okay, did you go to the event? Did you rock your round? Did everyone cheer? Did everyone love it? You're an influencer. There's nothing you can do about it.
Totally. An influencer is a leader. And the reason they're a leader is because leadership, as kind of defined by this gentleman, Ron Heifetz, is the person who can mobilize people to overcome challenges and come out on the other side triumphant. In other ways, when you do something that gets people to react, you're moving them. You're making them feel something. They're seeing something for the first time. You're capturing a moment. You're creating that thing that produces an inflection in people. And an inflection is just a change. Being able to change your state of being, or furthermore, change other people's state of being.
Oh, yeah.
That's the most powerful thing a leader has, the ability to influence. And this is not manipulate, which is very different.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Manipulation is the deliberate influencing. Influencing just through freedom of expression is completely different. Now, one can become deliberate, meaning choose to continue to influence in that way, and thus manipulate themselves into something. Right. And we can talk about what that is and how we can, in corporate talk, keep yourself authentic or continue to be a real one.
Yeah. I was like, that's a trigger word, authentic. Everyone's but I know, but or in b-boy terms, this is what makes you raw.
Okay, so this is actually really, really powerful. Like when somebody says, oh, that person is really raw, it's they carry their emotions on their sleeves. They are able to be in the moment. They are responding in a way that seems very reactive, and thus producing an outcome that is unexpected. And that thing that is unexpected, if executed properly, and this is depending on your training and your practice, and your abilities, and several factors, produces an outcome that now creates that inflection and then moves people. And that's when people go nuts, right?
Yeah.
This is leadership. And why am I so attracted to breaking? Well, because breaking instills the principles of leadership through showmanship, but is measured through competition these days. But that metric is interesting to me because it starts by feel. And I've always said true human performance is measured by feel. When it feels right in your head and your heart and your gut, then you are trending in the right directions, and the byproduct will be the results that you seek. What does this mean? This simply means that if something feels right in your head, you can't explain it, but the logic seems to make sense. You're like, if I talk about it in my head, it makes sense to me. And that matches what's in your heart, meaning your emotional state. Whether you can describe your emotions or not, whether you're emotionally intelligent or not, it doesn't matter. But if those two things match, and then your body is expressing itself in alignment with that in a way that is physically producing health, then you're performing at the highest level you possibly can. And a lot of times what happens, and this is something that you can speak to way better than I can, is that when one is in alignment mentally, logically, emotionally, in their heart, and physically, you're producing the best expression of yourself, but not necessarily the results that you seek.
No. So that's one thing I think people, like practitioners of breaking specifically, have a problem with it, because we have given our validation to the judge that says this or this, or gives you a score. And my whole thing is, and this is to a lot of students and crewmates, it's like, did you rock it? Did you rock it? Yeah, but they didn't. Then who cares if they didn't? You created a moment. Someone's gonna go for a decade from now, who was at that event and said, I remember you did that round. I remember you did that. That was crazy. I can't believe I saw. Someone's gonna, and then, okay, who won that event? I forgot.
Yeah.
I forgot. I just remember when you did that thing.
Yep.
That's what you have to carry. Like these are the things that, that keeps your longevity. It's how many moments you create versus like how many wins you have.
Right. And the thing is, you can influence and maximize your opportunities of creating those moments, but you can't predict them.
No, you just can't.
And that's the essence of freestyle. That's the essence of freestyle.
That's life. And that's life.
But the reason I bring up freestyle is because that's the thing that produces the most wins.
Right.
And I'm talking wins at every level. And I don't know who did this. Sunny Choi shared this with me. Somebody in Germany, I believe, did some sort of study and saw that the best outcomes were produced in competition when people freestyled, meaning that they stopped thinking about what their set was going to be or how they were going to do their next round before the person had even gone.
Right.
And just allowed themselves to go with whatever was coming up. Those were the ones that were producing the best results. But it's very scary to do that, especially when there are high stakes.
We're seeing
that in the Olympic right now.
That's the interview you posted about with Rodney Mullen.
Yes, I mean
he said the same exact thing, right? It's dead. Once I played it safe, and it took away from me. It was killing me inside. It was dead already. Versus when I just let go of the competition and was able to just do what he does, then he was the most alive. And I think eventually that's where I'm at right now. It's not really about, I'm not trying to compete with, I compete because it's only a way for me to be in front of people, to have the spotlight on me. But besides that, I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, but again, I'm older.
Totally. But I think humans do well with a deadline.
Yeah.
Knowing that we're going to die, knowing that this life is finite, puts a little fire under you and makes you feel like, okay, I'm going to value this and I'm going to take advantage of it.
Yeah.
Knowing that tomorrow there's a jam or there's an event and you're going to compete at it means you have to show up. Like the moment you're standing there, you're showing up. Yeah. And that, regardless of what happens, is going to produce an outcome that's going to inform you and give you a better sense of who you are and what you do and why you do it. Right. And this is what, without getting caught in the act of self-reflection, which can be just this like really dark pit hole that you dive into, you have to have some reflection on self, and you need to be willing to change your mind on things. Like you need to be willing to adapt, and becoming adaptive in the way that you do things is the thing that keeps you resilient. It's the thing that keeps you in a constant state of growth.
100.
And that, I think that's the part that at this moment is missing sometimes, where
Mm-hmm.
people are like, well, there has to be a way, and that way needs to be this like clear path to success. But why is nobody giving me the secret sauce? Well, because you're the one that has it, right? We can give you the tools,
Yeah.
but you have to become somebody that you're not in order
Yeah.
to use those tools.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
Right.
I agree.
And
I
this
agree.
is the biggest thing. And one of the problems that we're seeing today, and I know this is, people listening are probably like, this dude is crazy, but one of the problems we're seeing today is that in order to go pro, you need to become a pro, but most don't know what it means to go pro. Though they don't even have a model for that, what that is.
Because it hasn't really existed. Because pro, back when people say pro, and I hear what you're saying, when people say pro, I'm flying around the world.
We should be careful with how we're using these words, especially me within the scene, because this should not take away from everybody who's paved the way to get to this point, which have had to have professionalism. What I'm talking about is going pro, and I just want to make this like little preface this before we get into it. It's like going pro is saying, okay, how do I take myself to a higher level where now I get to actually play with those who are trying to come in and play with us?
Right.
That it's elevating your game, and thus saying you need to take your craft, your hobby, the thing that you love, and create some sort of structure that allows you to be professional, show up on time, communicate a certain way, have clear, simple, compelling ways of explaining why you do things so that you can produce clear outcomes, having mechanisms that lead to certain results, and to do that in a way that allows you to align with these bigger organizations that you claim to see as the enemy.
Yeah. Again, this is the trauma, and this is where I feel like you do probably run into a lot of the trauma stuff from the past, within the culture. The thing that created this beautiful culture is trauma. The thing that's stopping us is the trauma. Like, I mean, that's just what it is, right? But no, that was excellently said. You said that you said that there was this whole podcast you did, a solo podcast you did, where you talk about, the solopreneur, right? Like, and this is like, there's a lot of talking points from that. And that was one of the things that inspired me to like, hey, Carl, you have to go on here. You have to talk on my podcast. You got to talk on the trades, because this is something I always start out the show, this is the show about breaking business and breaking hip hop and the business of, and this is now we're talking the business. This is the business now. And, a lot of people think that's taboo, but at this point, everyone's reaching for it. But like you said, they don't even know how to define it, because it's like, we're in the forefront of the first time we're really in control, but we don't realize that we're in control. Like we really are 100% in control, more than ever, as far as knowledge of what contracts are, as far as like, not, you have relatives that could be entertainment lawyers, you have who's actually trying to, to manage, and we never had this. And these are the things that we used to like, oh no, we have to keep the culture. And it's like, and my whole thing right now is like, the culture is within you. Depends how much you want to market it. And I know that sounds crazy, but it is, because if you keep it alive for yourself, it'll never die. It just won't be as popular.
Totally.
But if you want it to be popular, that's a different strategy. And there's multiple ways to become popular. We don't have to just rely on Freestyle Session anymore. And the odds of you winning it compared to 1997 and now is 80% stacked against you, that you're going to win a freestyle, no matter how much you train. And again, it's the outcome, what you said. But if you train to create moments, and you create as many moments as you can, regardless, something will happen from those times. So you can't just go like you. And I know you realize this, and I know you tell these to the athletes, is that it's a whole campaign. That one event, you're gonna maybe dance 45 seconds.
Dude, yeah. Some people
you can't just go like it's that.
No, no. Yeah, like, for example, for the Olympics is now every event, every decision, every practice. This is your Olympics. The actual Olympics is just like a moment in time that's going to pass and it's just going
Exactly.
to go away. But what I
Exactly.
do think, just in regards to the Olympics, I think people are starting to notice what the magnitude of the Olympic brand is. That
Yeah.
people are starting to wake up to it and be like, "Oh, damn, okay, this is crazy,"
Yeah.
and it's just about to get a little crazier.
Oh yeah.
But here's my prediction. I'm just gonna say it here and shoot me or whatever. But
Yeah, let's do it.
there's
Carl's
a
prediction right
totally
here. Shoot him. His
totally,
IG is.
yeah. There's a bubble and there's a lot of hype being built that I think is going to crumble 2-3 weeks, a month after the Olympics, and then there's going to be a rebuild. It's basically like right now it's a house of cards that has to be there to hold this thing up.
Right.
And it's really important that although it is a house of cards and there is a bubble, that we just see it for what it is and allow it to just transition, to like just happen, and to be ready to catch the opportunities that are going to come our way. Because when this thing crumbles, you better just be in your position. Pop, you're going to catch it right there. You're going to be like, I knew I had it, you know? But if you're out there complaining,
yeah,
if you're out there kind of like, whatever, I missed the opportunity, you're not going to catch anything. And now you're going to have regrets. So the goal is no regrets, okay? Tattoo that thing on you. There's like no regrets, meaning do everything in your power to make this a positive experience for you, whether you are for or against the Olympic path. And you do that by positioning yourself in a way that aligns with that which you believe in and that which you think is best for you and the people who love and practice this craft. Right. If you do that, I think you'll be fine. Now, this is another thing. Is like if we take this to, you know, the later years of your life, you're not going to be competing, but you're most likely going to be pretty nostalgic and romanticizing a lot of this time.
Yeah.
Why not be romantic about it right now?
Yes.
Right.
I agree.
Totally.
I'm 100, and that's one thing that, you know, I pride myself in is that I love this. It's fun. It's great.
I mean, look at Pep here. She's a phenomenal dancer. She lost to Sunny here, but she's undeniable, right?
Right. Yeah, man. She kills it, man. And that's one thing that, you know, this is the Pan American Games that happened in Santiago, Chile. And you know, this is like the first time I'm hearing that basically top 16 was predominantly all the athletes from the US representing in the top 16, which is, to me, that's amazing to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? To have something like this happen. I mean, if you think about it, it's the first time really this happening, but no one's, you know, but if you're complaining about, well, it's the Olympic stage and that's not real breaking, and then come on, man. Like, again, this has never happened really. Mm-hmm. So, okay, let's talk about that a little bit. So we talked about kind of, you know, where it's going. And again, I earlier in the program and on Instagram, I said, we're going to talk about the future. Mm-hmm. And I feel like you
no pressure. Here I am.
Exactly. Well, you know, pressure because, well, it's more like this. It's almost like I'm telling you, like what he's saying, what Carl's saying, and I'm saying, be forewarned. Mm-hmm. Be forewarned. We're talking about don't complain. You better do this now. Mm-hmm. You better start doing this. So, you know, I brought up this clip because, like, you know, just to make sure that it's allowed that you are managing Sunny right now, right? As far as breaking, right? So talk about that process a little bit.
Yeah, I guess I have to talk about how I got to this point. And yeah, currently working with Sunny Choi, with Levick, so Vicky Chang, Miguel Rosario Gravity, and Jeffrey Lewis, and Rascal Randy Freitas. And I started connecting with them when I was consulting for Breaking for Gold USA, specifically working with Flowmaster, B-Boy Wicked, and Bonita, who were the core coaching staff at that time. Right. And what at first, I think I've shared this here before, but I'll share it again, and just so people can hear it. But I was basically consulting, just helping them understand, like, what's the lay of the land for what this Olympic path could look like. What should you think about in terms of building a team, like an athletic or a sporting team? And I was just using my experience in gymnastics and CrossFit to share what I knew. And then eventually that led to me getting to know the athletes, and then starting to develop different education programs around just prepping them to go to the distance. And it got to the point where, because Breaking for Gold USA was in development, it was a little confusing as to what my position was, where I was. And then things became very clear, and that's when I had to make a decision whether to stay with Breaking for Gold USA or to go solo. And my gut and my instinct told me, okay, you can continue to support every single person on this path if you just do what you do best, which is to coach people on an individual basis, and then influence, if you can, in a positive way, the decisions of the group. I was just going to be like an outside advisor, just sounding board. Anyways, what originally started with me, I was doing all their fitness programs, like their physical training programs. I was managing their calendar. Like, I was doing the whole thing that is required to make somebody successful. Okay, so by the way, the image that we're seeing right now of Gravity and Jeffro going up against each other, I told Gravity, I said, it's amazing that you're here, but now you have to chop your friend's legs off. And this is like watching your kids fight. It's like it's killing me.
See, like, I love that. I love how invested you are, man. Like, for real. I love how invested you are. Keep going. Sorry, keep going.
I mean, I fucking love them. Okay. I just love these people. They are amazing individuals. And they're never gonna know, like, how much they've actually impacted me and how much they influenced me. But they,
I mean, you're wearing Gravity's hat, right now? Aren't you? No,
this is my hat, but
your hat.
I do have Gravity's hat too.
Yeah.
I love them. They're phenomenal people, talented, funny people, smart. They just get it, and they are passionate about being not only the best breaker they can be, but the best representation of breaking through their way of looking at it. And I don't know, if that's not amazing, then what is? Right. Because this is how I think about it. My grandson, okay, he's 2. I put clips up of breaking, and he loves it. Gravity, in fact, I share this clip of my grandson with Gravity. He put it up as a reel the other day, and he said that when he received it, it made him cry. Right. It moved him, because he realized, wow, this is like shaping the future. And he has 5 kids, so right. When you have kids, you have this appreciation for the people that are coming behind you, that makes you respect the game that much more. Right. And you're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna say things. You're gonna you're gonna fuck up. Okay, it's gonna happen. But man, is their passion and their willingness to rectify, to correct, to adapt. I want to see that in our leadership within our government. I want to see that in the leadership within the big corporations. Right. Yeah. That's hard. I can stand by that. I would vote for that. Right. So I love these people. They're amazing. Anyway, so yeah, I manage/represent the 5 individuals that I just talked about. And now some people are like, okay, so like, what does that look like? Well, it's something that is in evolution right now. It's work in progress. And the way that we got to this point was, I took on this just lifestyle coach, performance coach role. And basically I've been working pro bono. So that just translates to for free for the public. And it got to the point where agents, managers were starting to step in. And I was like, this is cool. And I encouraged everybody to like go do the thing. And then one day I just woke up and I'm like, okay, I would regret not giving this a shot. So, yeah, I approached them and I said, can I be your manager? And can I potentially represent you? And they said, yes, let's do it. And it's just something that is ongoing. There's nothing like, I don't have any long-term contracts. I don't have any crazy agreements. I'm not taking a cut on everything that they make. In fact, I have made $0 up until this point. Maybe that's it just shows how well I'm doing. But in all seriousness, it's something that's work in progress, and that I want to have proof of concept. Meaning, I want to get to the point where
that's the thing. Like, because I don't know. I mean, I've heard of managers before, right? But then we're talking now. Again, you're dealing with, and that's why I was like, behind the scenes, I was like, can I talk about this? Because I don't know if there's any NDAs or anything like that going on.
There's no NDAs. This is This is all super organic, and even I've been very cautious about how I've been sharing about this publicly, because this is a big deal.
Yes, 100. Yeah.
This is people's livelihood.
Yeah.
And here, and me coming in to play puppeteers, like, what are you doing? That's not what I want to do. What I want to do is I want to come in and I want to feel like I can belong to something. And you may wonder, why do you care so much about this? Well, because when I was a kid, I had dreams and aspirations of going to the Olympics. That was the highest level of performance for a gymnast. And I didn't make it. And I didn't have, although I had amazing parents, an amazing family, very great coaches, but I didn't have the person that could give me the insight as to what the mechanism was for developing your best expression as a gymnast, so your physical craft, emotional and mental support, and then a machine that allows you to go pro in a way that frees you up to do more of the thing that got you to start in the first place, which is, for me, was gymnastics, and for the breaking scene is dancing. So if I can be a voice of reason, just an accountability buddy, a co-pilot, somebody who can just help foresee what's around the corner in some way, and to assist in making decisions that one can be proud of in the long run, then I think I'll be doing a good job.
I think so too.
Yeah. In order for me to get there, and this is the thing, you can't just show up and say, I'm going to manage you, or you can't just show up. You have to get to know the person.
Yeah. And again, this is a difference, and this is just for me, knowing you personally, is that when you liked breaking before, what I mean? But now it's like the passion and the investment is like, this is a different side of Carl. I am used to seeing. I know you're passionate in people. You've always been passionate about people. Yeah. And development. Even like you have what's it called again? You have the emotional
fitness.
Fitness. Yeah. So it's like it's really good, because I think, again, and I'm not afraid to say that, hip hop comes from trauma. Like, that's the greatest thing, and yet the thing that's keeping us back are those things. And you're able, because you, like, I think for the viewers that see this, I think the fact that you even tried it, they're like, oh, he actually tried it. Well, I could kind of respect that. Oh, he actually listened to he because of one class, it changed the way his perception of music. Oh, I could. So that, a lot of this is really for them to get to know you, you know what I mean, on a personal level, and see how passionate you are. Not just the whole, like, we're going to achieve it, but you sound like you really care about the people in the scene and the scene, and making sure that we don't lose a lot of the things that happened in the 80s. Again, the people that were in charge in the 80s were producers that made movies since the 60s or maybe 50s that kind of watch just to make a profit. And this is like going to be a fad. And we've proven at this point, we've proven it's past a fad. But now it's like the fear of structure is like, but you're talking to a person that likes structure. And no one's going to tell me that I'm not raw. Like, no one's going to tell me I'm not, like, oh, he's just like a robot. Like, no one's gonna tell me that. That's just period. No matter how much I trained and whatever I do, no one's gonna say that, I put in too much work and they know it. And I'm trying to, as you, I'm trying to change what a elder looks like. Do you know what I mean? In the scene. Like, because
Beautiful.
like that's like one of the goals is like, okay, we don't know the shelf life. Like, before the shelf life was like, I don't know, 30. Now it's like, then became 40. Now you have Skilroy in Hawaii who's like 56 doing a gainer who's never done it in a
Amazing.
competition. And this is what I'm saying. And it's just like, and then on top of that, it's like, well, why do we rely on competition so much? Like I'm trying, and there's that the juxtaposed to like, like for instance, plug my event, even though it was a competition, I cared about the little nuances versus the competition was fun. Like, this is fun. But how did you feel when you walked through the door? That's what I was more like into. How did you feel walking through that door? Did you feel welcome? Did you feel excited? I'm more into those things. So I'll let there be these events that feel sterile and that are very like, okay, what are the, and it's not to shun them because one feeds the other.
Yeah.
When you get, for those guys that compete, they'll come to my gym and not feel like, oh, I don't have to, the pressure's gone. I just want to hang out. Like, I like, and vice versa. Like, there's no reason why we can't have both. Maybe one is going to be more popular. The bandwidth for the Olympics, it's going to be more popular. There's no way I could compete, but if I can make you feel at home, at least for like, a little bit, you know what I mean? We're creating the variety versus just like we're just reliant on one thing. And that's what it was in the past. We were reliant on one jam that happened in November, and that's the next jam that I'm gonna go to. Nah, there's too many at this point. There's like at least Pan American Games are going on, and then at the same time in Seattle was Massive Monkeys. Like,
yeah,
there's more than enough choice and variety out there.
Yeah, 100%. And I think you make such a strong point about both being able to exist. In fact, it's necessary. But one of the reasons we're seeing competition be so elevated these days is because there are measurable outcomes. There's a clear winner or loser. There's a point system. There's a way of seeing how much you're moving the needle.
Right.
Whereas when you do something that is more of a celebration or just a hangout, that can only be measured by feel. And when you come back with the news, you can only share a vibe. And when I say only, I'm not dismissing the vibe because the vibe is everything. But it's not something that is transferable or tangible to be amplified by others. But when there's a number attached to it, it is now not only quantifiable, but shareable and repeatable. It's something that now can become predictable.
Right.
And something that is predictable is secure, and something that is secure can lead to health. That being said, too much security, you become stagnant, and but that's why you need to be able to break free. So
and that's why with the Rodney Mullen thing was so important because it's just like because sterile, but then it's basically what we're talking is balance. No, what we're really talking about is balance. And if we're so driven to just perform and be like on point, which people fear culturally, they fear that because they fear the sterilization of competition. If you're doing that too much, it's gonna be dead. But then if you do like if you're just all free and there's no measurement, that also too will be end up in the same place. It'll be dead, right? Because like I said, there's nothing quantifiable about the vibe. It's hard to like quantify it.
But the vibe is everything. The vibe is what you call home. The vibe is the thing where you're like, this feels good.
Yeah.
And if you can catch the vibe at these events that are highly competitive, very structured, very rigid, good on you, because people are going to feel that through the screens.
Yes.
And that's one of one of the things that we're seeing breaking bring to the Olympics for the first time.
Right.
Is that vibe. And although the commentating right now on the streams need to be improved on a little bit, it just requires a little bit of education and
hiring the right people. Like
hire the right people. But that it will happen. It will happen.
Yeah.
And all of this is happening. Like
we're at the very beginning. Like
Yeah,
we're
and the
straight up
people
in
are
the
in
very
that.
beginning. Yeah.
Yeah, and although there is, of course, everybody has like this like power grab thing. Like even I wouldn't be doing this like to the point that I'm doing it unless I thought, you know, this could be in some way viable as some kind of career. That's the truth. Is like I'm gonna have to pay rent, so something's you know, I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to pay. I have kids. I'm
Yeah.
gonna have to pay something. So if I do this full time, I'm gonna have to make it viable in some way,
Right.
either resources or finances. Something's gonna
Right.
have to get right. So let's be very clear here that everybody is trying to position themselves in a way that they can become viable, but that can be confused with power and control. But
Yes.
the truth is that you only have as much power as you want to give up power.
Very true.
And in order to do that, you kind of have to put yourself in the beginning in the most vulnerable position you possibly can be,
Yes.
to identify what is it that you believe to be a power and what is of true power.
Right.
And we know that, and this is what breaking has shown me, true power in breaking is in the people who are not scared to just like be fully themselves. That's the highest level of expression.
Right.
And the masters of it, especially in competition, are the ones who know how to bring people to that moment.
Right.
That's the talent, that's the art, that's that part.
Yes, sir.
And that's very hard to do, because if everything is telling you that somebody's out to get you, you're gonna be clenched up.
Yep. Yeah.
You're gonna be tight. You're
Yeah.
not gonna be feeling anything.
And again, that's why it's important for me to be an elder and be a different type of elder.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yet
know?
yet you can be very disciplined, have very strong opinions.
100. Yeah.
Totally.
But at the same time, be open to change and be open to that vulnerability, to take that chance, and you know, and it's okay if that was a wrong decision.
Mm-hmm.
That's another thing. It's okay if I made a mistake. That's why you learn from it, instead of like, oh no, never again. I can't do that. It's like, well, let me strategize again. Let me reflect on it. It's like, what did I do right? What did I do wrong? Could I do this by myself? Do I, you know? And this is the process part. And you know, I know you're very big on that.
Mm-hmm.
We're about an hour 16 in.
I'm just getting warmed up.
Oh damn. Okay. Well, let's keep going real quick. Like you had this very good thing on your podcast where you said, and this is going to turn off a lot of people, but that's why I want to ask you the question, is that because of evolution, there is going to be an Olympic style of breaking. And that's why I think, I would say, at least, and this is from an age range, I would say from 25 to about 40-year-olds that are doing it are afraid of. Not so much the really young ones. They're just like, hey, we're here. I can air flare now. Like, you guys can't. Like, they're just all for it, right? To me, it's like full circle. The thing that we feared of, like, it's going to go back to the 80s. I'm like, well, yeah, we're actually pretty much back in the 80s. Like, you know, in some sense, right? The music, you know, because of copyright and live streaming, you know, they have to make music that's not a James Brown or something like that, because that's going to cost a lot of money for the copyright and for permission. So now the beats are a little bit more artificial sounding, a little bit reflective of the electro times in the 80s, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's bigger. Like these kids, like if I say style, like, and I'm talking about the 11-year-olds. We're talking about the gifted 11-year-olds that could, like, they're from China and Japan that are just doing this amazing things. Like, their style is gonna be what they're like, the closest thing to characters, like whatever's like they're watching on TV, which if they even use it, you know what I mean? So that cultural stuff is kind of foreign to the kids that are coming up that are going to be in the 2028 Olympics. And this is what a lot of the guys my age feared. It's going to be checkbox breaking, and they're not going to understand the culture. And I like the term that you put, Olympic style breaking. So what do you think is going to happen? What's your opinion on it? Do you think that there's something that we should fear, guys like myself, like they're my age, I don't fear it. But just say for guys like
Yeah.
who have similar thoughts, what are your thoughts of that? What do you think? Do you think that's a good thing? Do you think that's a bad thing? Do you think that's evolution? Do you think that it's just whatever thing? It doesn't matter. Like let's get your thoughts on that.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to have peace of mind, accept and respect all styles. That's what I would say. Accept and respect all styles, and then lean into yours and share yours in a way that is contributing. It's kind of like, in climbing, you have many different styles of climbing. The style of climbing that you're going to see in the Olympics has nothing to do with the Alex Honnold free solo type climbing. The skiing that you see traditionally, like skiing on snow, like slalom, for example, has nothing to do with slope style skiing that you've seen in the X Games and now becoming an Olympic sport, or having been an Olympic sport for a while, or then just getting on your powder skis and skiing big mountain. Different styles, but all come from a place of simple curiosity and willingness to test yourself. And when there's a testing ground that is proven to bring out something that not only feels good, but allows you to measure your success in some way, it's going to become popular. That's why you like getting more attention on Instagram. This is the game. This is just part of the algorithm. If you don't want to play the game, don't play it.
So for those who are like, let's say you're 35 and you're like, okay, I don't like that. But Carl, what do I do then? I want to make a living. I want to do that, but I don't want to play that game. What's you suggested to them?
Yeah, this is what you would hear. You would hear, add value to the conversation. Add to the conversation, but don't tell people what to do. People are already autonomous. They want to be autonomous. In fact, what you are asking for is autonomy. But in your state of not knowing where you fit in anymore, or like, where am I in the evolution of this? I mean, this happens to me all the time. You react in a way where you get frustrated, and then you start to project. This is what we all do all the time. Like, we are projection making machines. So my recommendation is, try to flip every single statement you want to make and turn it into a question. Start there. And instead of it being like, shit, Olympic breaking, ask the question, why Olympic breaking?
Man.
And then allow yourself to come to your own conclusion, whether you like it or not, like whether you like the trajectory or not, and then ask the people that you want to lead, that you want to positively influence, why Olympic breaking? Let them tell you. And then use your experience, your knowledge, to reflect back what you know in a way that allows them to come to new conclusions, and maybe say, I'm going to continue to do this anyways, but I respect the game even more.
Fair enough. I like that. I like that, Carl. I like that.
I think that's the only way. That's the only way.
I like that. And then, I mean, just asking those questions can lead you to a solution for your own. And then again, that's what you're talking about, leadership. Like, okay, how do I, again, this is why I go to the music side of it, why we're closer to musicians, because a lot of that stuff was created because of how they felt. A style of music came from how they were influenced by one style and then created their version of that style, and thus created something new. And if we're caught up, and this is just, again, this is the other way to create something without competition, is that you create the things that you don't see. If you want, like, you create the things you don't want to see, you create your own path. Again, I refer back to Circle Fire, who actually mentored Levix. They were a crew that came out of Seattle, but a lot of them are from the Bay Area. Seth is from the Bay Area. Bob is from the Bay Area. They went to Seattle, and they were like kids that used to go to raves, right? They would do like freestyle, hip hop, dance, house, capoeira, and then they play with breaking. And they're like, then there was like Orb from Vegas, who was a b-boy that turned into a house dancer, and then Free, who was a b-boy that kind of like mixed the styles of house dancing. and they would just join freestyle session because, and which was a b-boy battle, was a breaking battle, because they just wanted to dance in front of people.
Sick.
Their intention wasn't to necessarily win. Their just intention was like, hey, we exist. That's it. That was the farthest that they thought. And, you know, they would lose and stuff like that. And then Gabi Aqua from Circle Fire said, well, I want to make a competition where it's built for us. And that was in 2002. And he created the All Styles competition.
Damn.
It started in the Bay Area. Now it's actually as big as breaking now.
Wow. So
the Bay Area started the first All Styles competition.
See, I hear that and I'm like, tell me more, you know?
See, and they created their own lane.
That's exciting.
Because nowhere else was doing it. Nowhere else. It was 2002. It was an event called Solidify.
Yeah.
So they created the All Stars event. And who got popular from the All Stars event? Lay Twins. Lay Twins got famous from Just Debut, which was an All Stars event that's supported by Red Bull. And now that's the biggest, you know, event now. And even Red Bull right now, their marketing is even more focused on Dance Your Style, which is an All Stars event. So this is something that was created by Gabi Aqua from Circle Fire, 2002. See what I'm saying? Like, they created something that they didn't see, but they weren't malice about it. They were just like, well, you know, we don't want to make a breaking event. We always dance at breaking events. We always want something different. That's it. And then you know what I mean? And I'm giving him his flowers and his props right now because no one realizes All Styles events didn't just pop out of thin air. Right. There was this process that happened. If you really run real quick, the education is start with Gabi, Solidify, then it graduated to the Flavor Dance Unit by Prem, and then he was inviting international guests like Silla and all these people. Then that movement spread because of that media spread to Europe, and after that it was done. Then everyone had it, but it started here. And it's like that's a quick history for everyone that's watching that. You know, you can create a whole scene. Really cool. You can create it. Yeah, you can create what you don't see. And again, because if you don't like what you see, like even for me, like, you know, bringing back the Floor Gangs anniversary because I wasn't happy with a lot of the footwork battles that were happening in the US. So hey, bring it back. And you know, my event was like, you know, not to like pat myself in the back too much, but I was very happy with the result because I was like, wow, we did this only because I didn't see what I wanted to see. Do you know what I mean? 79 competitors that were at high level. And I was like, because I didn't see what I wanted to see, now I did. That's the thing. And I didn't have to compete. It was just creating it. And that's what it makes me feel like, yeah, that's proof of concept. If you believe in something that you have, and if you take away the, you know, just relying on the judges and you create rocking moments. And yeah, you're right. Under high pressure, regardless of the outcome, if you create those moments, you're creating a brand. You're creating a way of thought. You're creating your style. 100%. And people will go with that style. And that's going to bring you farther than that 30 seconds on that big stage. You know, the equivalent, like if everyone could think about, that's why I always say you have a campaign. It's not just one event. It's many events that lead up to that maybe big event, and then you start all over again. Yeah. And you just take those wins, man. And I think, you know, I think that's why it's important that you're giving that side of it, right? You're giving that side of like, you know, this emotional intelligence, this emotional fitness, because it just doesn't stop with that one L. It's like, did you lose big though? Did you lose in the finals where everyone's talking about you? Like, I thought you won, but the judges, you know, like if you did that, that's winning. And then if you're relying on the money to pay rent, you're tripping. Like,
yeah, it's going to get challenging.
Yeah, you don't do that, have that, but then because that sets up the future. Yeah. That loss in the finals, second place sets up the future. And I think in America, we're just so caught up on that. Like, oh, if you're not winning, you're losing, you know, like that stuff. And I think that's when you're talking about managing and being a mentor in that way, and not just managing them and giving them, you know, understanding them, how to sign contracts, make sure you're negotiating the deals. But if you're not winning like this, what did you do? And make sure you're carrying that momentum to the next event. Because that's what really important. And you're not a loser. And, you know, because we tend to like, especially in sports, we tend to like, especially if you're young, you tend to put everything on this, what do they think of me? And I still didn't win. And yeah, like you had everyone on their feet, but I still didn't win. Like you won, bro.
Yeah.
Or girl, you won. You really won in the long run. You just don't know it.
Yeah. I have a story I used to share at my seminars, which was, when I didn't make it to the Olympics, I was super depressed and my whole identity just kind of went down the drain.
Right. Yeah.
And later on, as I got older, I was like, oh, it's not about the magnitude of the victory, but the appreciation of the victory. And I would share the story that I would imagine in my head. I would imagine myself winning the Olympics, standing on the podium. This is later when I was older, winning the Olympics, and then getting the medal, the flowers, the whole thing. But all of a sudden, looking up and nobody in the stands. And then, going into the locker rooms and it being empty, and then trying to call family and friends and nobody being on the other line, and realizing, wait a second, the importance of a victory is really your capacity to share the process you went through to arrive at that point. So it has to do with the appreciation of the share, of the connecting with somebody, and especially with people that you care about. And this could be, friends, family, crew, community, extended community, whatever it may be, just connection. And then I realized, okay, and it's not about the magnitude, meaning the size of the win. It's about the micro wins. And it's realizing, okay, what is a win for me today in this moment? Is if you take an L, what did you learn? What's the victory within that? And being able to appreciate that by realizing that that's going to be value that carries over. So basically, the word appreciation is the increase of value over time. So if you buy a house, you want it to appreciate in value, right?
Yeah, so, yes.
So realizing that micro win is something that if you appreciate it, it will be small today, but over time will expand into something bigger.
Yeah.
And that it can only be materialized and integrated by sharing with others. So you need to have the capacity to say, I lost this battle, yet I learned this lesson that has now given me the ability to do X, Y, Z. Being able to articulate something that way, even though it sounds robotic or whatever, who cares?
It's not whatever.
It is very powerful. And and now we can add to this, and this is even more powerful, because this is where I am really excited about what breaking has to offer, which is, okay, this is going to sound weird, but there's something about the violence that exists within the act of battle that doesn't harm. It's unharmful violence. In other words, it's a way of expressing that side of ourselves that is aggressive, that is a killer, in a way that does not cause any harm.
Yes.
And the harm that it's causing is not one that is caused by the person who won, but rather by one's ability to take the emotion that it evoked on oneself, which is based on a myriad of things. Some of them are traumatic moments, like you have said in the past. Some of them is the way that you grew up. Some of them are actually in your epigenetics, which is part of,
yes.
It comes
Thank you for saying that.
Ancestors.
Yes.
But it's very much a product of your environment. Thus, realizing that you can change that you can change the way that you are in relationship with your emotions, and thus not be harmed at all. And this nonviolent approach to the nature of expressing that aggression that we have inside of us, I think is extremely powerful and needed, because it makes us more peaceful individuals, more inclusive, more able to have complex discourse. Like you and I are talking, we've been talking for an hour and 33 minutes. Whoever's listened this far has a capacity for discourse and learning that is very much needed today.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
And I'm a dummy. I'm just trying to figure it out as I go. I don't know.
You're not a dummy, Carl, obviously.
You know what I mean? It's like, I don't have the answers. I'm just exploring. but I can only explore through the willingness to try to manage that which is coming up for me. Now, why is this also very cool is that there's nobody else that's doing it this way. Like breaking is the only craft that I've seen right now, the only, call it a sport, that allows for this to manifest in this unique way. And
100.
when the right people start to like see it outside of breaking, there's going to be an inflection point. Like there's going to be this, it's going to amplify in a way that is going to feel chaotic. But worry not, because chaos is self-organizing.
There you go.
Okay, this is the nature of nature, is that when something is chaotic, it actually organizes into something that is functional. Being able to see what is coming up and what is like seems to be like, oh man, this whole thing is going to shit. This regression is actually a progression.
Agreed.
Agreed. And you're getting to witness it, and you can even be a part of it.
Yeah.
That shit's cool.
Yeah, it's very cool.
What you gonna do about it?
Yeah, exactly. I saw a real quick story, or not even story, observation. I used to be one of those, this is like maybe 15, 16 years ago. You know, I used to battle, and I still battle, but you know, this is like when I was battling a lot, like when I used to like kind of value it in a different way. It would always be the, you know, like, I don't get it. You know, there's this nerdy Asian kid. He's in my face, but I know if he doesn't do this, besides this, he wouldn't do this. And I would murk him. I would be the one jumping him. Then when, like, you know, then eventually I thought what you thought. Look, if I think about it, this is like nerdy Asian kid who's been bullied all his life, right? Like, no girl respects him. You know, he's like, people take his lunch money. No one respects him. And this is the only venue he could express that primal thing that we have in all of us, because what you said, epigenetics. And of course he's gonna go all out, like, because he has no other place to feel safe about it. And yeah, it's true, because like, you know, it's like I used to get mad about that. It's like, you're only doing that because you could do that here, and like you wouldn't do that out, like, you know, out in the public, like in the street, you get repercussions right away. But then I start to go, okay, I get it. I get it. This is, you know, this is the only time that this person feels empowered. So, and if that gives him confidence, and maybe he doesn't bring, and he's respectful outside of it, all right, cool. You know, I mean, there's rules now that's being implemented in competition, obviously, you know, where it's like, you know, they're changing certain things, but I don't want to take away that chance for him to express that side of that person, because it might develop a confidence outside that he never had before, or the opportunity to express, right? And that's gonna bring it into his world, in his real world, where it's like, well, at least I stood in front of, like, I'm the most quietest introvert in the world, but in that stage, 2,000 people, I was like the man. You know what I mean? I was the aggressor. I was the bully. You know what I mean? So I think that's, you know, what you said, it is valuable. It actually is valuable. And I'm, you know, that's a good observation on you, that you got to see that.
It's interesting. And I think this nonviolent approach to releasing something that is so primal, like aggression and being competitive, is really cool. And I think it's something that can be translated into the way that we communicate. And somebody who I've been, you know, very influenced by is Marshall Rosenberg, who was the founder and who initiated what's called nonviolent communication. And there's a very simple structure you can practice for communicating anything that you observe and you feel something about, which is the following. You just say, I have an observation. Okay. I see that breaking is turning into this discipline called Olympic breaking, and I barely recognize it. Okay. You just say your observation. That's just a statement that comes from you. Nobody can deny your perspective. That's your perspective, and you own that, and that should be respected and accepted. Now, the follow-up is, you say, this is what it makes me feel. It makes me feel sad. It makes me feel frustrated. It makes me feel whatever. You just try to express the thing that's coming up for you. It pisses me off, whatever it may be. You're shitting on everything that we've done up until this point. But, but the moment you say that, the moment you say you're shitting on everything, you're assuming that their intention is negative. So that's actually not a feeling. That's another observation, but it's one that is not true.
Yes, definitely not.
Not necessarily
Definitely
true,
not.
because not
Yeah.
everybody is trying to just take a crap on that which got them there. They
Yeah,
just happen
yeah.
to be expressing themselves. They don't know,
Right.
you know?
Right.
So you have to say, I feel sad, or I feel frustrated, I feel confused, whatever it may be. So you state your observation, then you state your feeling. Then you follow by stating the need of yours that is not getting met. And that's when you have to really start to reflect. You have to be like, wait, I feel confused because when an art form is judged, it's no longer art.
Mm.
And I have a need for there to be a freedom of expression and an artistry that doesn't have to be judged or measured.
Right.
Cool. And then when you finally said the need of yours that is not getting met, then you say what you want to see change.
Yes.
And you can say, respect the art, or when you step into a thing, remember what got you here. Remember the shoulders of the greats that you're standing on. Whatever you want to say. Something that you feel can be an explicit call to action, or it can be, the other day, somebody was talking about foundation and the importance of foundation, how these competitions, people aren't respecting the foundation, especially in footwork, and that they're pulling out moves that clearly haven't taken the steps to get them there. And I was like, this is really powerful. This conversation is really powerful. So what is a call to action that would empower people to lean into the foundation in a way that felt compelling to meet their needs in their current circumstances? They're limited on time. They have to go to these competitions. They're getting older. Everybody's getting better. They don't have the mentorship, whatever. So why would I take the steps and the foundation to do the move if I know if I can just do the move by just replicating whatever I saw? I don't need to understand the foundation. I just show up, I do this thing. You may be able to see straight through me, but my competition is the same as my level, so they don't see it. So who cares? Like, it becomes this like confusing thing. But if you can express that explicit call to action in a way that makes people curious and makes people really like, whoa, maybe learning a 6-step and being able to do it both ways with good form could be something that catalyzes, changes something else that I didn't even know I had. And wow, maybe it translates to more power, better transitions, ways of getting in and out of something that I didn't even know was there. It maybe unlocks something.
Right.
And if it doesn't, you didn't lose anything. You just honed your craft a little bit more.
Yeah.
Does that make sense what I'm saying, or does that sound completely
No.
ridiculous?
This is what we're saying. Like I said, like, I'm gonna keep plugging my event. You're exactly talking about what I've done. Like, I felt like something was missing, but instead of just complaining about it, even though some people would say I was, it's just like, no, these are the standards, and let's see what you guys could do with it. And we had a winner that was like, came out of nowhere. And then because of the way we had the judges express what they wanted. So then some Titans fell, right? Because they didn't fulfill the criteria, which we clearly stated, this is the criteria. But from under that, there was like this thing that the audience is now looking for. And because they were looking for it, there was this one battle. Shout out to Doom, the winner of the Floor Games Forward battle, and BDK, who is a local kid from here. Doom is I think 16 from San Diego. And that battle wasn't the hypest battle, but you could hear a pin drop.
Wow.
It was like no one was cheering because everyone was so like, because they were looking at because the judges expressed what they were looking for, so everyone was looking for it. And then after it was done, everyone cheered.
You're making a really good point here. And actually, this is something interesting. And it's been landing on deaf ears with some of the people that I've been sharing it with, is that right now, when brands come into the space and say, what can we do to support? Try to amplify and help explain what to look for when looking at breaking.
Yes.
And this is, I want to give credit to Team USA. Team USA has tried to put out some clips. Maybe you've seen it. And they have 1 million followers on Instagram. They put out some clips. Sonny is featured there. Pep is featured. Morris is featured. And they're talking about breaking and what breaking is. And they only had, you know, half a day or like an hour to film this, so they didn't have time to really produce something great. So that we need more of this. But that type of content, helping people like myself who are non-breakers to understand breaking, is what's going to create more fans.
Yes. Yeah.
And you want eyes. You want people to know what they're looking for. You want people to be like, say, oh yeah, that's top rock. Oh yeah, that's a transition into footwork. Okay, I get that. Okay, cool. Changing directions. That's important. Okay, that's cool. Can do it both ways. I like that. Oh shit, I'm listening to the music. I like it. Oh, coverings, floor space, whatever it may be. Dynamic, whatever it may be, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And that's like just like basic education that makes you be like, whoa. This is not just a dude who's just like on the floor, just like aimlessly moving their legs.
No,
this person is dancing in a very methodical way, and it looks cool. Education is cool.
Yeah, and that's one thing. Like I said, that's why I was like impressed by this battle, because you know it was like right after I was like, you couldn't hear a pin drop, guys. And usually in a breaking battle, everyone was like, yeah, woo. It was like, no, everyone was like, did you see his leg? Oh, wait, he's countering this, he's countering that. And that's what made this battle, and this is only top 8. That's what made this battle so good, because it was like, and the thing is, now it felt like, because of the standards that we put up there, it felt like the audience was in on it.
And you know what's very cool about that? And sorry for interrupting here, but you know what's very cool about that? Although I know, because I've been around long enough, that is pretty advanced.
Right.
It feels simple enough that it makes me believe that I can do it too.
Yeah. When it really inspired people, because they were like, yo, it's something as simple as that. I didn't have to do anything super flashy. It was just like little things that made it, that engaged people, and engaged them in a different way. Again, no one's going, woo! It was just like, it was just after the fact, everyone was like, holy crap. It was like applause after. But because of, like, you know, again, we know we did the edutainment thing. We made I want you guys to watch this and see if you could observe the same thing that we're looking at. And then it made everyone feel like this thing. They're all in on the judging. They're all in on and these are guys that are power move guys. These are guys that are just like, didn't care. Maybe they didn't care about the footwork battle, but they were engaged. And that, to me, that was like, and I remember the next battle was like Eddie Styles, and I forgot who was. And I was like, you guys got to beat that battle. You're not battling each other. You guys got to beat that battle. Like, you know, and
that's
that was
amazing.
Yeah. So it was really cool, because I think what we're talking about is like a different approach to breaking, and instead of just the complaining, of creating these things that we want to see. And there's this possibility of creating an audience that we didn't think that there was an audience for. We just think it's so underground. And it's just, again, you know, and this, my philosophy is based on, you know, the 1,000 true fan theory. You can, you know, which is like, you can actually make a living from just only 1,000 true fans, not followers, but true fans. And once I learned that, I was like, okay, I don't have to be so scale or whatnot. I just have to create the culture, you know, the culture that I want to see. And then we just could be amongst ourselves, evolving whatever art that we create. So I'm very big about that, you know, and that's like independent thought or independent scene, but still be part of this bigger scene, instead of hating on it. Just like, we're just part of the ecosystem, right? It's like, and create more worlds.
To be honest, I don't hear a lot of hating, maybe because I'm in a bubble, but
I do.
I can imagine you have different conversations. But I would love to see what would happen if somebody could lead those who are hating and those who are not hating into nonviolent discourse that leads to more lanes, more expression, more what would you call it? More reach. Because frankly, I want to be entertained, and I want to be immersed in the world, but I'm not going to get the full thing if I only know about Olympic breaking.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, I'm going to have to go to an event like yours to get a different flavor. I'm going to have to go to some anniversaries elsewhere. Yeah. but without the full participation, you just won't get the most complete picture of it.
And that's the thing. It's
And
like
maybe we're just pontificating now, but I don't know. That's
yeah, yeah. No, I mean, no, I mean, if anything, we're on the right path because now we're starting to create these things that you know. And the funny thing is because a lot of people are surprised when I talk about this because of the conversations I have and that
right.
the respect I have in that scene. I'm like, well, you can't hate on them. You just can't. And why not? Blah blah blah. And that, so it's like this is part of the education process, right? And it's like I'm for it. You know, I'm for all of it. I'm for all of it because once I realize my own insecurity, that's how I realized it. I realized my own insecurity of like I'm not going to be as popular as these guys because I can't do what those guys did. It became just more of a self journey and be like, oh, yeah, actually you can create it. And you already know this. Like I'm doing it with the show. I'm doing it with like a lot of other things. And again, the event that I just threw kind of confirmed that. Like, okay, yeah, you can create your own brand and you don't need this and that. But and that's the time you can support the bigger things. I could support a Olympics. I could support a Pan American, you know, again, you know, and not everyone's going to do it, but you know, I'm going to do it. I'm going to create the alternative. Why not? There's a market in that. That's the whole point. Like, you know what I mean? If you don't like, you're complaining about these companies, well, I'll create a company that you know, you'll like and that you respect. And, you know, that was my proof of concept, you know?
That's
and
awesome.
So I was just, yeah. So
awesome.
Again, so for those who are listening and complaining, like you can do it. It does take work though. Don't get me wrong. You can't just sit there and be like, it automatically is going to happen. It's just like anything else. It's, you got to work. You got to, you know, you got to do your due diligence. You guys just got to keep pushing it. And then, you know, and then trial and error. Okay, this worked, but this didn't work. This worked. And then just keep then repeating the process until it becomes refined. And yeah, and that's where it's like, again, you know, that's why I invited you on because just you're about that period. You're about the process. And you know, I just want more people to see that you're going to be part of the scene, like it, you know, for them liking it or not. And I'm like, hey, he understands what he's talking about. Like,
that's amazing.
That's just it. Yeah, that's just it. You know.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I mean, I love this scene, and I'm gonna do my best at representing where I can, and I'm gonna do my best at shutting up and just listening where I can. And sometimes I'm probably gonna say things that are gonna cross certain lines. I will be told, and then at that point, I'm gonna have to improve. And sometimes my improvement is actually not gonna look like that what you want to see.
Right.
You know, it's kind of like I have to do my own thing too. But I want to do it in a way that this maybe sounds like, I don't know, self-aggrandizing or whatever, but maybe I can contribute in some way.
I think you are already.
Yeah. And if I can, then shit, that's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, because I think
it's contributed to me.
Yeah. You are, honestly, you are already. It's just, this is a new, you know, we're entering a new era in breaking in as a whole. And again, we're starting about business, but this time we're coming in. The difference is you're not in there. A lot of people, if you look at all the sports that happened prior, you know, it was all about like, let's get them signed, let's get this person this and that. And a lot of those people aren't involved in, you know, the actual creation. Right now you're in a point where it's like, again, you know, this trauma that we carried from the 80s, from people that didn't have our back, they're about getting these people signed and didn't care about, you know, what happens after. That's what usually creates the trauma. Now, if they had the people that were going to be like, hey, you're falling off, let's figure out what we could do to keep it moving forward, blah, 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 blah. I don't think we would have, you know, such a, you know, media. You know, you know, so now that we have that, you know, like someone to you, and that's going to like help them, your athletes financially, and then to walk them through this process of that's your 30 seconds. And it might be a deck of cards, you know, house of cards that fall off.
Yeah.
And then create from that. Exactly. I think that's important because you know, again, this is something like, where me and you have something in common. Like, we didn't get to the ultimate goal that we thought, that
Right.
we imagined ourselves at 22 or whatever, but because of that wisdom, we're like, all
Mm-hmm.
right, now we can know how to navigate. And if it happens, dope. We know how to be successful. But when it comes, oh, dope. We know how to like how to do this when it's not. And that's something, that's a wisdom that you can pass down. And that's why I said you're very important. And I think, for
Mm.
those who don't understand, again, I'm looking at the future. I'm looking at
Yeah.
these 11-year-olds. I'm looking at these 12-year-olds. I'm looking at like they're just having fun breaking.
Yeah. They love it,
Love
and
it.
they won't
That's
stop.
it. Yeah. And then
Yeah.
the cultural part, we're recording these videos, these documentaries, these podcasts. If they want to know deeper, they have access to it.
Totally. Totally.
And
Totally.
that's something they
And
didn't
one day
have
they,
access
yeah,
before.
exactly. It's right there. It's right
Yeah.
there. It's very cool.
Yeah.
It's very cool. Well,
Yeah.
I appreciate the love and you including me in the conversation. I was surprised that Focus reached out and had me on the podcast, and I was like, that's amazing. I was even nervous. I'm like, oh, what am I gonna say?
I was like, we think the same, man, because he's gonna be on mine.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I was a little nervous going on this one today too. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just have a
What
lot
are
of
you talking about?
respect.
We have conversations like this. Like, for those who don't know, I have conversations like this on the phone with Carl. Like,
Yeah.
maybe once a month. Like,
we do.
it's
But
just like
it's from a place of respect, and I guess you just want to look good and be like, can everybody see that I'm trying? Is that okay? Like,
I think, I
it's a
mean,
self-validation thing that I'm looking for sometimes,
right.
and that's just my vulnerability right now, just speaking. But at the end of the day, it's like, it's not my problem.
Right.
Yeah. I always used to say, I don't care about your problems, but I do care about what you intend to do about your problems.
Right.
And the reason I don't care about your problems is because I have enough of my own.
Yeah.
It's like, basically what I'm saying is, I'm just a dude trying to figure it out. I just happen to love breaking. And sometimes I'm like, am I insane for doing this?
No,
Or
not at
does this
all.
make sense?
It
Yeah.
makes sense. Like, I mean, so like I said, when you got involved with Breaking for Gold, I was like, yes, good.
That's cool.
I was like, good. He knows what he's doing, because again, because I know you care about people.
Mm-hmm.
For those who are
Mm-hmm.
watching and don't know Carl, again, I've been knowing him for years. He cares about people.
Mm-hmm.
Period.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter. Take breaking away, take CrossFit away. Carl
Yeah.
cares about people. So, and then like how you even shifted, like your business to being like, okay, just CrossFit to like, emotional fitness. Like, not a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people do that. There's probably less money in that too.
Way less money. In fact, it's been the worst financial decision I've ever made.
But I'm just saying, something in here said you have to do this.
Yep.
And that's why when I know that you're like, you're taking a hit. Again, CrossFit is like still popular. Still people do that. They probably still go like, give me a muscle up, Carl. Why don't you keep talking about muscle ups? And then you're like, no, I want to talk about this emotional fitness thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like, okay, I guess. But then, because of that, it fits you in perfectly with the athletes going through this transition, especially that you've been there before.
Yeah.
That's why I could comp, because I've been there before. I was in the world championship crew, and I was the one kind of put to push this aside. So it forced me to create something that, and an appreciation that goes, okay, what lasts longer? And with this year, the last year and a half, I've proven it. Like, I've proven it with just things that people thought you needed to do this to achieve this. You need this to achieve it. No, I did it the way I wanted to do it. I did the way and like everything is like lining up. Why? Because I understand the power of just, awareness and how to market. I mean, as cheap as that sounds to everyone, it's like, art marketing. Yes, marketing is an art too. You know what I mean? I have fun with it. Posting every day, all that stuff, working out every day, doing my thing, not, just expressing the, my authenticity, right? Quote unquote, authentic. It does work. It's just, like I said, we were taught that, like you said, we just want to be surrounded by the people, winning. This is the thing that going to an event and winning does, is that, yeah, your peers are there and they get to cheer you on.
Yeah.
Even your enemies that you think are enemies, but they're really your peers because you see them all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You're happy that they're there experiencing the moment with you.
Totally.
So
Totally.
I mean, that's the not to I always play the opposite because of the competition, because it's just so indoctrinated that no one knows the outside of that. That they're
Mm-hmm.
like this. So I'm just trying to give a broader sense.
Yeah.
Because that was the case, I wouldn't have a competition. My thing was still a competition. It's
Totally.
just the approach of the competition wasn't so like, this is the competition. It was more like, just have fun with us and enjoy the
Mm-hmm.
competition. And yet, still, even at that, people took it serious. I'm like, hold on, they still took
Hold
it
on.
serious. I was like, that was not the intent, your intent. But then I get it.
But the seriousness is, it comes from a place of care.
Yeah, 100. Yeah, I agree.
And when you can see it that way, it's kind of like, whoa, you're being really aggressive right now. Yeah, it's because you care.
Yeah.
Wow, you're really taking this to another level. Yeah, because you care.
Yeah.
Wow, you're really throwing a fit right now. Yeah, because you care.
And
It's like, it all comes back to care. And I think when you can be careful, meaning full of care, you start to produce pretty meaningful work. And I think that's the ultimate goal. And I can tell you this, I have been learning so much. It's been like drinking from a fire hose.
Fire.
And I tell you this because, okay, just from this is just like a personal low, like just so people get an idea of kind of how I've invested in this. I did a little just calculation, back of the napkin type calculation, in terms of the hours that I've dedicated to trying to contribute last year.
Yeah.
It added up to over $110,000 in 2022 of worth of my time. So if people had been paying for my consulting or whatever services, it would have been over $110,000 worth invested in this. And I see it as an investment. The question is, what am I investing in? Well, in many things, of course, but one of them is, I just believe that this thing can go, like, it has legs. So let's see how much we can put into this, because if this ends up contributing to my grandson in a way that allows him to have an outlet for expression, that is amazing. Don't you think that's going to be worth my 110,000 whatever dollars worth of hours? 100%. That's like pennies.
Yeah, I just want everyone there to imagine this, and this is going to maybe give you a little perspective, Carl. When I first wanted to do this in the year 2000 as a profession, like, I want to be getting paid to break, and I don't want to do shows. I just want to teach. People looked at me crazy. This is 2000.
Wow.
People looked at me crazy. 1 year later, I had 5 accounts in 5 different schools for after school programs. And I was able to do this,
That's incredible.
This 1 year later, this is just 1 year later. I had 5 accounts when people told me that that you can't, there's no such thing. It'll never happen. 1 year later, 5 accounts, and then some people that doubted me started to teach as well. And then now, 25 years later, 23 years later, 22 years later, if you look at Las Vegas, Zoologic, BTR Breaking, Full Force, and B-Boy Alchemy are 4 of the biggest schools in a concentrated area in Vegas, where you have competitors that are 19 now that are of the standard.
Yeah, ATN posted something about that the other day and said, "Wow, something's happening here." The level that's
this didn't exist. This didn't exist before. So I just want to tell you, like, people told me it's not going to happen. Well, I'm telling you, Carl, like, I haven't had a regular job in what? Like, I even left the after school program 2009, and I haven't had a regular job since then. I've just been doing this.
Yeah, you don't have a regular job, but you work on the regular.
Oh, right? I know. Right? What they call a regular job, right?
But I think this is the point, is that if you're going to be doing this work on the regular, which means that you do it habitually, might as well take it to the next level. You're already 100. Investing, and that's kind of what the position I'm in. It's kind of like, I'm already here. I'm already doing this. Why not get to a point where people are like, oh, we're going to pay you. We actually want to pay you. How much? Where do we send it?
Right,
if I can get to that point, that's pretty awesome. Now I get to continue to do the work on the
Mm-hmm.
regular that I like doing, that I love doing,
Mm-hmm.
and I think is meaningful.
Yeah, man. I
Yeah.
mean, you're onto something. Like I said, it's just like again, I predicted a lot of things, so it's already the things that I start to predict are already happening. So I'm like, all right,
Let's see in a few
cool.
years. We'll check back and be like, yo, how did it go?
No, it's gonna go good, man. It's gonna go good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let's wrap it. It's been 2 hours. Holy crap.
We
I
did
was
it.
like, I'm only gonna talk to Carl like an hour. He's not gonna have enough time. He's a busy guy.
No, I knew we were gonna go long, so I cleared up my afternoon schedule, and
Okay,
I'm just gonna walk the dog after this. So
nice.
that's what I'm doing.
There you go. But yo, Carl, thank you so much for being on the trades. Let me pull up your social media. Is there anywhere else they can find you besides Instagram?
Yeah, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, LinkedIn, freestyleconnection.com, my podcast, The Freestyle Way.
Yeah, check out the Freestyle Way. I will be reposting on my community tab. I post a lot of his stuff. He has a lot of good stuff.
Nice. Amazon, Goodreads. I don't know.
There you go.
You'll find my face, but don't confuse me with the other Carl Paoli, who's an actor.
Yeah. Nah, you just put Freestyle and Carl Paoli in it.
You'll find me. You'll find me. Yeah, you'll see my face there.
Yeah. Is there any words before we wrap it up? Any words for the audience?
Yeah, just whatever you're feeling passionate about, lean into it. And if you're going to lean into your passion, create a practical approach to allowing your passion to be amplified. Be willing to learn and collaborate with others. And every single moment that feels like resistance is simply an obstacle informing you on what the next step is. And that's where remembering why you started will help you realize how to finish. So that's my.
Oh yeah, there you go. Wise words. A lot of wisdom in this episode. A lot of wisdom from this conversation. And of course, before I sign out, again, 89% of you are watching this. I know you'll be watching this. That's you, Focus. I know you're gonna be watching this. That's my competitiveness.
Nice.
I know you're watching this, or anyone else who's watching this, please subscribe because you're watching the content anyway. Remember, subscriptions are for free. Press the like, that helps the algorithm. Press the bell for notifications. It helps out the channel. And you can find me on Instagram at PROFO_FLGZ. This has been The Trades with Carl Paoli. And next week, we're going to have B-Boy Vix and the first dubbed B-Boy, B-Boy Sasa, on The Trades. And he's going to talk about his first experiences with breaking.
Wow.
Back in 73, 74. Tune on for that one. I want to say peace and see you guys next week.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.